Welcome to RV Squared. I'm Steve Vance, and today I'm going to walk through the procedures to put your slides out. And we all know that slides can be a bit of a stressful situation. For some reason, of all the sophistication in a motorhome, slides kind of bother me the most because you just never are fully comfortable that something might not move correctly, and you just want to make sure that your procedure is lock solid so that you can at least say you did things correctly. So stick around and I'm going to walk through those procedures for you right now. So as you pull into a campsite, you're obviously going to be looking at the ground surface to make sure that you're going into a level area. But you're also going to be looking at obstructions, tree overhangs, poles, and other RVs. So you want to give yourself adequate clearance. Here's a little trick for you. If you're not good at judging clearances, or if you're just getting used to your new coach and you don't quite know what your clearances are, most of us carry a broom. And if you want, just go ahead and put a piece of tape around your broom and then just mark. I have here slide without awning. So, point is, if you've got awnings, don't forget to give extra clearance for them. If your awning comes out another 2 to 3 feet and you haven't given yourself adequate clearance around a tree or a pole, you're going to run into a problem. So give yourself that adequate clearance. In this case, you can see that my slide will come out to about here, all right, without the awning. So you're always going to be sizing that up as you pull in. But there's 3 prerequisites that I have when I'm going to run my slides. Number 1 is the motor needs to be running. On a Newell, the motor supplies the vacuum to vacuum the slide seals, which are pneumatic on a Newell. So you have to have that motor running because that's where the compressor runs to pull that air out. Believe it or not, it uses that system to evacuate the air and then of course reinflate it. So you want to have your motor running. If you don't have your motor running, you're relying on your onboard compressor, and that's not enough. Number 2, you want to have stable power. Stable power means you need to have your generator running or you need to be on shoreline. But I want to tell you something. Don't connect your shoreline in the middle of this process. If you're going to connect your shoreline, you want to turn your shoreline on and you want to let the onboard transfer switch kick over so you've actually got full 50 amp 110 service to your coach. Don't try to do this midstream because you're going to have problems. Third prerequisite is you want to be at travel mode ride height. So for those of us with Newells, that means you need to be in travel mode and you need to have all your airbags inflated at the correct ride height. So 3 prerequisites: stable power, motor running, and travel mode at ride height. Another important thing that a lot of people overlook is the gap. Now, there have been motorhomes that actually put a label up above their slide control that says mind your gap, and that's just to remind you to come out and check to make sure that your gap is equal around all surfaces of your slide. Don't do what I did. I pulled into my driveway here a month ago. My driveway is off-cambered pretty significantly. I got complacent. I didn't think about that. And when I went to move my slide out, I had not gone around and checked my gap. Had I done that, I would have avoided body damage. My slide on the other side bound up against the top surface of my coach, and it bound on the way out. Luckily, I didn't cause anything more than a little bit of paint chipping and a little bit of body damage, and it can be repaired. But worst case scenario, you can bind up your motor mechanism and throw your slide out of sync. Then you've got a real problem. Your slide's either going to get jammed where it is or stop or fail right then and there, and you're not going to be able to move your slide in or out. So mind your gap. Come out and make sure that you have equal clearance all the way around your gap. So now that I've gone around and checked my clearances, my gaps, and in this case, I'm not going to connect myself to shoreline power, but I am going to run the generator. So I'm going to start the motor, I'm going to run the generator, and then we're going to start the slide procedure. So let's walk inside. So let's fire up the generator first. Get that going and warmed up. It takes a little bit for that power switch to transfer. So we want to get that running. Obviously, if you're rolling into a campsite or rolling into a campground, you could have all this done so that as soon as you get in, you're ready to deploy your slides after a walk around. So let's start the rig. And I can just double check now that my generator is running and make sure that I'm on both legs of 110 and 240. So I know I've got plenty of good, solid, clean power to run my slides out. So on the Newell, there's two control panels. The first control panel for us is right up in here, and we can activate that control panel. There's also a control panel in the midship area, and that's the one I like to use just because I'm not so cramped and I don't bump my head, and I've got a better view of the rest of the coach. So let's go back there. Now, as you walk back through your coach to prepare your slides to come out, what I do first is I deflate my seal. So I come back here, I activate my panel, and I deflate the seals. And as I'm hearing those seals deflate, I can walk around and double check to make sure that as we've driven, there's nothing that's kind of rolled around the slide trays. So here I am at the back panel, and I see that all my slides have deflated, and it says finished on all 4 lines. So what I like to do on this coach, when I put the slides out, I like to go from front to rear, and I do it in a Z formation. So I go left, right, bottom, left, right, and that looks like this on the control panel. So as you hit room select, I do front driver, front curb, rear driver, rear curb, and you'll see why in a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do front driver, and then I'm going to hit extend. So now you can see that since I'm running the front driver slide out, that affords me the best clearance to walk through and move things around. Once the floor is all the way up, you'll see a signal on the display. It says please release button, seal is inflated. Now for us, since we have an office chair and a recliner, this gives us nice room to move these things out of the way and give us enough clearance and room to move the curbside slider out. For those of us that have the ottoman, we pull the ottoman out. So now that I've got the furniture out of the way, I'm going to go back and then I will move the front curb side out. Now if at any time you stop your procedure either midway or if you've done something or forgotten something and you stop, don't be alarmed if your system times out and goes back into the inflation mode, so it inflates all your seals. As I've done here during filming, my seals have reinflated. And that's just a safety procedure that if you stop midway or if you only want one of your slides out, it'll actually reinflate those seals so that you don't have a big gap. Okay, so don't panic if that happens. So let's assume that we've actually stopped and something is timed out. We can just go back in here and either hit deflate all the seals, or just let's say, for example, we're going to do the front curb only. So you're going to tap the room and then you're going to hit extend, and you'll notice here it'll say seal is venting. So that is basically taking that seal on that one slide alone and evacuating the air. So it's going to take a little bit longer, and you'll notice that the slide is not moving right now because the seal is still vacuuming. Once that seal is completely vacuumed, it'll say room's extending and then tell you seal is vacuumed. So again, I'm looking and listening to make sure I don't hear or see anything out of the ordinary. And once the slide hits the limit, you'll hear a couple clicking noises where the slide's locks are going into place, and then the floor will start to raise. Once the slide is moved all the way out, the seal will actually inflate. See, now it says please release button. So there we go. It's all done. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to bore you with all the rest of the furniture moving as well as the rear slides. It's the same procedure. So I'll shut the rig down and then I'll push the auto level function. So at this point, since I'm on generator power right now, if I was somewhere where I don't have shoreline, I would go ahead and leave my generator on. If I came into a campground and I was all done with this procedure and I'm on shoreline and my transfer switch is flipped over, now's the time to turn off your generator. For the rest of us who would pull into a campsite, connect your 50 amp and transfer, there's really nothing left to be done. Your generator's off. All you need to do is turn your motor off and you're ready to start camping, okay? Now let's talk about bringing your slides in. For my prerequisites, remember, we take a hot lap around. We check to make sure that there's not been any debris. For example, we were in snow recently and we had to make sure that our slides were clear of snow. We also were at a campground that had a lot of leaves come on top of our slides, so I had to make sure I got up there with a ladder and blew those leaves off. Some people use brooms. Whatever you need to do to make sure the tops of those slides are clean, because what happens is when those slides come in, all that debris starts pushing up against those slide wipers or slide seals and can get under and cause a real problem making a good seal. So you want to make sure you get as much of that slide cleaned as possible before you move those slides in. The last thing I'm going to tell you is on the Newell, there's a safety catch that if you have any of the bay doors open, they won't let your slides move. So don't panic. Sometimes you may turn your slide panel on and try to move a slide and your slides will be locked out. It can easily happen to you if you forget that you've got a utility bay open or if you left your water bay open. That is going to stop your slides from moving. Once you do your walk around to make sure that everything looks good on the outside, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start my rig and get it aired up, and I'm also going to push the leveling system into the travel mode. So I want to give the opportunity for the bags to become inflated and to get to ride height in the travel mode. Very important to move your slides in the travel mode with ride height. And this information comes from Newell themselves. This is the procedure that they recommend. So let's start the rig and let's go ahead and get it into the travel mode. Just as important, if not more important, make sure that all of your slides are free and clear of any debris, encumbrances. Look for shoes, socks, dog toys, kids' toys, you name it. You got to make sure that all your clearances are clear. If you've turned your driver's seat around or your queen seat around, make sure that they are moved forward. Make sure that they aren't back up against this slide panel. Also make sure that your driver console is moved up, free and clear of this. Make sure you have rugs and carpets out of the way. So you can see here, another reason for us to go in reverse order is if you move the driver's side front slide in first, it makes your pathway here pretty tight, and then you can end up having problems pushing furniture back into the other slide. So what I do is I like to go in reverse order. So I will do the back slides first, right, in reverse order, and then I'm going to be moving this slide at the very last. So this slide's going to come in, and then this slide's going to come in, and you'll see that in a second of why I do it. So you see now I've got enough room to walk through here, so I can just move my recliner chair and ottoman console underneath the dinette, and now I've got this nice path here. Last but not least, the front driver retract. With that final slide brought in, you can go back to the main menu and select off. If you don't do this, it'll automatically time out and the system will go into sleep mode without you doing anything. So there it is, Slide Procedures 101. It's not that difficult. It's a little bit stressful because the last thing we want to have is have a slide that jams or gets debris in it or locks out, or you get a shoe underneath the slide. It can really ruin your camping day if you get a slide malfunction. So if you just practice this, build up your routine, you'll get that muscle memory. It'll become very routine for you, and it'll take that stress of what to do out of it. I hope this video helped you. Please leave comments below, give me suggestions. We're in this community together to help each other, and I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate you liking these videos and subscribing, and please tell some friends about it. I love to see this channel grow, and you all are a part of it. So have a great day, safe travels, and safe slide travels. We'll catch you on the next video.